الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
قدره وعظيم سلطانه واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله ادى الامانه ونصح الامه وكشف الامه وتركها على المحجه البيضاء لا يزيغ عنها الا الهادي. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى: يا ايها الذين امنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله ان الله خبير بما تعملون. ويقول الله سبحانه وتعالى: وتعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الاثم والعدوان واتقوا الله ان الله شديد العقاب. ويقول كذلك تعالى: يا ايها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. I bear witness there is no deity worthy of worship but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator, the sustainer, the provider, and the lawmaker, and that indeed He has revealed the law of the Quran upon His last messenger Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him and all of those who follow him until the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us in the Quran, addressing us believers, saying, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, be God conscious, taqullah, waltanzur nafsun ma qaddamat lighadin. And shall a soul see what it has prepared for its tomorrow, for the day we depart this life, for the day we're in our graves awaiting our accountability, wattaqullah. And again, be God conscious. Indeed, Allah is all-knowing with what you do. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah At-Tawbah mentions the months of the year. He says, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم. The number of months in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are 12, the day He has created the heavens and the earth. And 4 of those are sacred months. They're months that are haram months. There are certain things we should not be doing in those months. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ فَلَا تَقْتُلُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. This ayah was revealed at a time when the believers were getting ready to challenge the Romans. And the calendar at that time was mixed up. It was not a correct calendar. The people of Quraysh, the disbelievers, had a lot of special interests. For example, the time of Hajj, when people would go to the Kaaba. As we know, Hajj was prescribed since the days of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And as the message of Ibrahim and Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam got corrupted, people still used to go around the Kaaba, but the ritual was not the correct ritual. So they were going there doing their tawaf, but also, selling and buying stuff and so on and so forth, but doing it in a way that is not, of course, compatible with Allah's command. So they would change the month of the Hijjah so that they can do more business, or whatever other special interest they have. Just like the holiday season in this country where all the retails rack up, right? They start racking their sales, same concept. So the months were not the correct months. And that month, when this ayah was revealed, the believers or the people at the time thought it was month of Rajab. And it wasn't really Rajab. It was a different month. It was Jamadi Akhirah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah. The Prophet ﷺ later mentioned that today the calendar has come back to the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created it. The point of this ayah that I wanted to communicate is that they were in such a state of confusion and corruption to the point that they changed their own calendar. Imagine one day you wake up and people say, today's not Friday. It's Thursday number B, because we want to have the stock market open for an extra day. That's the state that they reached to. Right? The state of confusion and lack of clarity. So today, inshallah, our topic is about vision. And there's no better time to talk about vision and clarity of vision than the beginning of a new year. As you know, today is the 11th day of this new year, 1435. So inshallah, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help me to communicate a few points and concepts that maybe would, inshallah, inspire us all to seize this new year, inshallah. So when you say vision, what is vision? The secular definition that scholars of management and leadership define is that it's the ability to articulate the future, to ponder upon situations that might happen if we execute certain plans or certain things in our lives. So it's the ability to see facts in front of us and come up with an idea what the future is going to look like. Next week, next year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from today. So inshallah, after this khutbah, I ask each one of you to reflect and to speculate or articulate what would the future hold, inshallah, for yourself, your family, your children, grandchildren, and for the community and the society that we live in. So 1,300 years ago, the Prophet ﷺ had a vision. And that vision was driven through inspiration by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to migrate to a new town, a new place, and to start a new nation. At that point, he envisioned Islam one day would spread throughout this whole planet. And he might not have lived until that point was achieved, but he had that vision. And it wasn't based on some ideas that he had in his own mind, but again, through inspiration of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his full conviction in the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His full belief that this message is haqq. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that there will come a day when the Romans are defeated, he knows this is true. He has envisioned that battle in his mind, even though he might not be there physically, but he had seen it happening and coming. So it's a vision based on peace and harmony and pluralism, living with non-believers and non-Muslims in a new town, understanding that there are ways in our deen to live with others who have different belief systems, different interests, and as long as we each keep our distance, we should be able to live in harmony through the way or the process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put for us. So this vision was not just an idea that, hey, let's go to Medina and see how it works out. No, this vision was based on yaqeen. He knew that this is it. There's no point of return. There's no such thing as, let's go to America and just get a degree and work there and then see how it turns out. No. It's let's go to America, get a degree, and make sure we spread Islam. Or make sure our vision is complete. Because there are a lot of great visionaries around us, but their visions are incomplete. And Gandhi is an example. A great leader who led his country into liberation. He had a vision. He had a vision that one day his country would be a great nation. That people would be liberated. They don't have to be slaves anymore. They don't have to live in poverty. There would be equity. There would be justice. But his vision stopped at the grave. His vision did not exceed that point. His vision was a vision of this first life, the hayat al-dunya, the low life. But the Prophet ﷺ's vision transcends the boundaries of the grave. It enters into the next life, the eternal life. And such should be the vision of every believer. Because our vision should not be the big house, the great college that the kids would go to, the grandchildren, and then what? The what is the akhirah? The what is the Jannah? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Jannah to speak up when it was created. He said, say something. The Jannah envisioned the success of the believers. The Jannah said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Indeed, the believers have succeeded. And then it went on mentioning the qualities of these believers. The ones who are humble and have khushu' in their prayers, they perform their zakat, they don't waste their time, they keep their confidence, they protect their modesty and so on. They protect their prayers, and they inherit the firdaus. They inherit this highest point in the Jannah. Another great example of someone who had vision was Yaqub alayhi salam. When his son came to him and said, "My father, I had a dream that the sun and the moon and 11 planets were prostrating to me." He said, "My son, don't share this dream with your brothers. Shall they plot a big plot against you? Indeed, shaitan is a clear enemy to mankind." Yaqub alayhi salam had received revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and knowledge, and had understanding of the scriptures of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that he knew this is a significant dream. He didn't maybe necessarily understand exactly what the details are, but he envisioned there's some trouble coming down the road. So he gave some advice to his son. Now when his son was taken away from him, and his children came, and they lied to him and so on, he said what? فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. Beautiful patience. Again, he envisioned that one day my son will come back. I shall be patient, because by the will of Allah, Allah can do anything. So he will bring back to me my son as long as I am patient and I have conviction in my heart that Allah will give me the victory. He envisioned one day that Yusuf alayhi salam would come back to him. So, in summary, a Muslim's vision transcends this life into the hereafter. And that's a very important concept. Because when we look at the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not let us speculate and come up with ideas what it's going to look like. Although it's unseen and kept from us, He did give us enough information that we don't need to go and figure out what is it going to look like. It's very clear. There's a Jannah and there's a hellfire. You do good, you go to the Jannah. You do evil, you go to the hellfire. You do this type of deed, you go here. You do that type of deed, you go there. It's very clear. He gave us descriptions of what the Jannah might look like. Trees and rivers and beautiful things. And He also gave us a description of the hellfire and the end of that. Torture and punishment and screaming and boiling water and skin being burnt and changed and so on and so forth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us in this life to speculate and to come up with ideas of what the future might look like, based on the reality that we live in this life. And this is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He showed us enough of the hereafter to inspire us and motivate us to work for it. And kept the laws of this life away from us so we can discover it. And we can envision what would happen if we burn or we heat a piece of metal. Oh, it's going to expand. And we do experiments and we can measure it and we can see it tangibly in front of our eyes. And from there, we can have a vision of the future and we can be inspired to work for the hereafter. And this should not be a foreign concept to us as believers, because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, on the day of judgment, people will be telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قَالُوا رَبَّنَا أَمَتَّنَا اثْنَتَيْنِ وَأَحْيَيْتَنَا اثْنَتَيْنِ. O our Lord, You have put us to death twice and put us to life twice. فَاعْتَرَفْنَا بِذُنُوبِنَا. So here we are confessing our sins and evil actions. فَهَلْ لَنَا مِنْ خُرُوجٍ. Is there a way for us out of this difficult situation, Ya Allah? What are those two lives and two deaths? The scholars say the first death is when we're in the womb of our mothers, before our souls, are blown into us. Before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts the soul into the embryo. That's the first death. And then the first life is this life we're living, and the second death is in our grave, and then the second life is the eternal life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us, وَمَا هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا لَهْوٌ وَلَعِبٌ. What is this life, this low life, dunya, this low life that we're in, except amusement and playfulness? It's just temporary. وَإِنَّ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةِ. And indeed, the hereafter, the next life, لَهِيَ الْحَيَوَانِ. This is the permanent life. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. If they were to know about this. So the Prophet ﷺ's vision about spreading Islam and moving to Medina was not only to free the slaves and to stop the drinking and to prevent the killing of the girls. No. It was to go to Jannah. It was to rise with an ummah that is qualified to be called خَيْرُ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ, the best nation brought out to mankind, because they were commending good, preventing evil, and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لكم فاستغفروه غفور رحيم. الحمد أنفسهم بِالْإِيمَانِ. So a believer whose vision exceeds the boundaries of this life will be someone who recognizes the akhirah in every moment of his day and night. It will be someone who's inspired to work hard for this life and hard for the next life. And the hard work he would do for this life is to make sure he succeeds in the hereafter. For no other priority. That would be his top priority. And just like we go with phases, through phases in this life, being an infant, a child, a young person, an adult, a senior, there are phases in the hereafter. There's a death phase. Then there's a resurrection phase. There's a first trumpet, a second trumpet. Then there's accountability. There's a sirat. And then there's final eternal abode, inshallah, in the Jannah. So the question we ask ourselves, what is our vision for ourselves and our families? And how does it play a role in what we do? Again, in Surah Yusuf, after Yusuf alayhi salam acknowledges the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him by the ability to interpret the dreams and understand things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Prophet, peace be upon him and all of us, saying, "O Muhammad, say this to people. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي. This is my path. This is my way. أَدْعُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. I call upon Allah. I call towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عَلَى بَصِيرًا. With clarity. There's no confusion. With clear vision. Basira is having a vision of where I'm heading to. Where I'm heading towards, with conviction, with patience, enduring the trouble that I'm going to come across and face, having no doubt in it, with clearance and guidance. عَلَى بَصِيرًا أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Me, myself, and those who follow me. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ. And it cannot be accomplished, that vision, without the glory of Allah, without Allah's help. The Prophet ﷺ could not have spread a single word of the message without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's support and victory. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. That is a vision for each one of us. And we have to have a vision, otherwise our purpose in life will be so trivial and unclear in our heads. If we don't understand where we're heading towards, there will be no reason to work towards it. We won't be that khayr ummah, because we don't see where we're heading. So in order for us to have a vision, we have to know where we stand. What's our current state? What is our current state? What's good and what's not working? Where should we be? What's our baseline? The baseline is the Quran. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be. Then we have to look at how far are we away from that Quran. We live in times in a society where it's so contaminated, it's for many of us, we've become so used to this contamination, it's hard even to see how far we've deviated from things. Whether we're young or old, it doesn't matter. Every day there's a new law issued in this land, and most of us don't even know what it is, and to a big extent it affects our lives. And in many cases it's a visible thing, and we just accept it as business as usual. Day after day, year after year. Those of us who are a little older can go back with our memories just 10, 20 years ago and contrast today, society, with just 20 years ago. And we can only envision what 20 years later will look like for our youngsters and grandchildren. It is indeed a very tough situation out there, and we have to take some action or involvement. So without a vision, our purpose in life will be cluttered. We might reach a state like those disbelievers who changed the calendar, and it was very normal for them. A complete confusion in their life. Changing the time, saying it's 6 o'clock now, and it's actually 3. This is completely nonsense. So the question we ask ourselves are, what are we doing about the education of our children? What are we doing about the laws that spread injustices on this earth, or this country at least, or our neighborhoods? Are we doing anything about the marriage institution that's crumbling? There have been laws passed a couple of years ago, and we're standing still as if this is it. This is a fact. We accepted it. How could that be the state? When the Prophet ﷺ, until his last breath, was saying, Ummati, Ummati, Salat, Salat. Until his last breath, he was still giving da'wah. And we accepted face value. Some law came and said, this is okay. What are we doing about it? And there are non-Muslims out there doing a lot about it. So it is more incumbent upon us who have the true, valuable message, ذَلِكُ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ, to do something about it. What about the gambling? What about the music? What about the many, many other things that are distracting us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So how do we see ourselves in 10 years? How do we see our state in 10 years in our youth? So a roadmap, inshallah, to set a vision for ourselves. A few steps. The first is to reflect on the meaning of life. What does life mean? Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us? And the answer is in the Quran. To worship Him. As one non-Muslim poet said, let nature be your teacher. And that is very true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the Quran gives us parables from His creation around us. The trees, the clouds, the lakes, the rivers. And all it takes is just for us to drive an hour into some remote area and just reflect on the beauty of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To recognize that this great tree that's standing there for 100 or 200 years, and that little sprout underneath it, are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That there's more to this life than the video games and the rap music. There's more to this life than the 8 to 5 job. There's more to this life than accumulating the wealth and paying the bills. There's more to this life than the fancy car. And yet we're still not even achieving these worldly desires. And we will never achieve a state of satisfaction no matter what. Because if our vision stops at the grave, it's a limited vision that does not satisfy the son of Adam. As the Prophet ﷺ said, nothing satisfies the son of Adam except the dust of the grave that fills his mouth. So first step is reflect on the meaning of life. Why are we here? Number two, understand where we fit in this whole globe. What is our role? As men, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined it in the Quran, custodians of the women, of the children. We are the bearers, the bearers and the people holding the torch. Are we doing that? Understand our role. Understand where do we fit with other people, believers and disbelievers. Isa alayhi salam said it very clearly when he was still an infant in his mother's arms. Inni Abdullah. The first word that came out of his mouth when they pointed to him, he said, Inni Abdullah. I am the servant, the slave of Allah. Atani kitab. He's given me the guidance, the book. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. Number three is to understand our value system, which again stems from the Quran and the Hadith. What are the boundaries that we should not come close to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. These are the boundaries of Allah. Don't come near it. He didn't say don't go beyond it. Don't come near it. And already every day we're going beyond it in one way or another. The shajara that Adam alayhi salam was asked not to eat from, he was told, don't come near it. He was not told, don't eat from it. And there were so many trees in the Jannah, infinite trees. They were all halal. He could have eaten from any one of them. But it's just that one tree that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, don't come close to it. And one step led to another, until he came close enough to touch it, close enough to grab the fruit from it, and close enough to eat it. So we have to understand our boundaries, and where do we stop? Number four, have full conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His capabilities and His promises, and have self-confidence in ourselves. As an ummah, Islam never started strong with large numbers of people, or with the best of advancement. They were few in numbers, but they had strong hearts. And we all, alhamdulillah, have strong hearts. So there's no reason for us to be disappointed or to lack motivation. We have the best prize awaiting us, the Jannah and the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's nothing to prevent us from being happy and looking forward to work hard with the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a very small example of how the Prophet ﷺ had these qualities. describing how he dealt with his Sahaba. فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. It is because of mercy and compassion from Allah, Ya Muhammad, that you have become soft with your companions. You have been nice to them. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ. If you were having a hard heart, a harsh heart, they would have left you. لَنْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ. They would have left you and went away. So forgive them. Consult with them. Be nice to them. شَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ. And now when you have an intention to do something, you can see something ahead of you, then have dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't turn back. Don't fear failure, because this is what shaitan is promising us. Poverty and failure and distress. And we see that in the undeveloped places on this planet. People are so down. People don't want to get up. They have no hopes. But a believer always has hope. Just like Yusuf alayhi salam had hope, and his father had hope. And any believer who has full confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall have hope. Because Allah tells us to not give despair on Allah's mercy. That is a quality of a disbeliever. And then lastly, to have patience coupled with taqwa. Because this is what Allah has bestowed upon Yusuf alayhi salam. After he was freed, and after he was made a leader, his brothers noticed him, and they identified him. They said, "You are Yusuf." He said, قَالُوا إِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ Yusuf. You are Yusuf. He said, "Yes, I am Yusuf, and this is my brother." قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has bestowed upon us a great bounty. What is it? إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرُ. Indeed, those who have taqwa, the God consciousness, the fear of the punishment or the anger of Allah, coupled with sabr. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرُ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Indeed, the one who has taqwa and patience, Allah will never forsake their good deeds. They are qualified to be called a muhsin, a good perfectionist. And this is what we should strive for. So again, very briefly, 4 points. Understanding the meaning of life. Why are we created? Where are we coming from? Where are we heading towards? Understand where do we fit in this world? What are our weaknesses? What are our strengths? Number 3, our value system has to be crystal clear in our mind. These are boundaries we should not even try to come close to. Number 4, have full conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and self-confidence that we can do anything we want with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then lastly, to have patience and taqwa. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us from among those who have taqwa, among those who have clarity in their vision and a clear understanding of their purpose in life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us Jannah. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما.